Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK Show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Hey, what's good, LBK? This is your brother, Robert Jenkins, coming to you. Oh, man, I think this is going to be episode 106.
Wow.
Of the Focus LBK Show. This is season 3, episode 106. It's been a while since I've had the pleasure of having a guest join me in studio, but today we are lucky enough to have Mr. Randy Groden. Randy is a traditional artist and something of an abstract artist as well, and he's got some amazing pieces on display right down the street at Caviel's Museum. I always say Caviel's. Everybody around me says Caviel's. So I better say Caviel's, but I feel like
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah,
so
it has an I in it, so I'm looking at Caviel's. But
and I'm sure as long as the guy was alive, that people called him Caviel, called everything. Yeah, exactly.
I imagine they called him Mr. Caviel,
right?
Or Caviel. You know, it's funny too. I knew of. I guess it would be his grandson, maybe, because Mr. and Mrs. Caviel, they were here in probably like the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Oh, wow.
So that's when that pharmacy was active.
Okay.
But I'm going to say grandson's my age. He was at Coronado, I was at Lubbock High. I think we played football.
Okay.
And we had a situation involving a young lady. I won't get into that. But needless to say, I won because I'm just an all-around good-looking and intelligent gentleman.
There you go.
Victor always tells the history of the situation.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But no, it's so anyway, down at Caviel's, Mr. Groden has a ton of good stuff on the walls. And what I like about your work is, well, first of all, there's several things I like about it. A lot of it is dealing with nudes. So it's beautiful ladies in various states of undress, artistically rendered. Like I said, I think I mentioned this on the podcast a while ago. There's a big difference between pornography and art. And,
oh, yeah.
And somebody said, you know it when you see it. And
right.
You absolutely do. When you see his work, you go, that's art. When you see some other work, you go, oh, all right, that's what I don't know what that is.
Well, I've been painting figures since I was, maybe 10, 12. Yeah. So I've been painting figures all my life. In fact, a person that I hadn't talked to since I was about 12 contacted me recently, and he was the little brother of my friend that was my age, and he said what he remembered about me was that I was one of the main things he remembered was that I painted naked ladies. You know, and
even as a kid.
As a kid, yeah.
Did you have models at that time?
No, at that time I used more reference material,
okay.
You know,
Gotcha.
Photographs and things, and you know, more, and it kind of developed my style too, but early on, but they were all, you know, Playboy was more, you know, a little more soft kind of thing. It wasn't,
right.
You know, lewd kind of stuff, you know. So anyway, but that was. I had anatomy books. I had all kinds of things, that medical stuff, but also art, anatomy stuff. So since you've already taken us back to that formative stage, that formative period of yours, I mean, how in the world are you already painting at 12? Well,
what sparked your interest in it?
Yeah, well, just as a kid, I was always drawing in grade school and entering contests and things like that. And one of the things I did too was watch on Saturday. There was, long before Bob Ross, there was an artist, and his name was John Nagy, and it was Gnagy, I believe. And anyway, he had a TV show, but he also had a kit. In fact, you can still buy it on Amazon, but it's called Learn to Draw with John Nagy.
Okay.
And anyway, he had a goatee, and he had kind of like a beatnik around that time period.
Yep.
Showing my age, but anyway, he I think it was on Saturdays, but he would come on and he would teach you how to draw a dog out of circles and triangles, and also a Chinese junk or, a mountain scene or things like that. Things that Bob Ross might draw, or paint, but not Bob Ross stuff. But
that's very interesting.
Yeah,
Do you think
so-
he influenced Bob Ross at all?
well, of course, yeah. Any TV people.
Oh yeah, because everybody would have seen it.
Yeah. So there's been others, but Bob Ross probably stood out the most, in this generation. But before that, it was John Nagy.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, people that may be unfamiliar with you will not know that you're actually most recently from Hawaii, correct?
Yes and no. I
Or
moved
Dallas
around quite a
and
bit.
then
I was in Maui for 15 years, and then I had moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I lived in Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
And from Santa Fe, I moved back to Dallas because I'd grown up there, kind of. And so my mother was ill, and so I moved back there, and I had some background in caregiving and hospice work and so on. So I moved back there to help take care of her until she passed away. But
Most of your travels that you are describing there, was that in search of producing great art and living that life that it seems like you need to live a life that inspires the art? Is that what you were traveling for, or you just
yeah,
wanderlust? Or?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. It was. I was always and still continue that, but looking for the next place that I want to go to and discover, and I try not to go backwards. But like I said, I'd moved back to Dallas, and so I'd never lived here before. And when a friend that had some property in Anton had invited me to come out, I was going through a lot of different things in Dallas and decided that it would be good to do something different, and not thinking about, Lubbock didn't come up in my head, or Anton, but anyway, since she had a place in Anton, that a building that I could downtown that I could use as a studio, I thought, no, that'd be different. So I could do it for a while and then move on.
Right.
And as soon as I moved out here and got unloaded, then the friend of mine that invited me out here, she went into the hospital and was in the hospital for 4 months. And because I had some background in caregiving, so I moved basically into the hospital with her for those 4 months.
Okay.
And then once she got out of it in a few weeks, then she was her living with a person that she did nails with for 30 years here in Lubbock. And so both of them had kind of developed a kind of a codependency kind of thing, and her friend had cancer, and so she went into the hospital and wanted me to come stay with her. So I went and stayed with her in the hospital for a month, and then when she was being released, just before, she decided that she was going to sell her cotton farm in Anton and move to Lubbock. I bought a house in Lubbock, and by the way, there's an extra room for Randy. I was like, oh, great. So anyway, but I moved there, and it was kind of a calling and a reason for me to do it. And so I took care of her for the last few months or number of months of her life, so that was good. But anyway, she passed a few weeks ago, and I got an apartment and decided I would stay in Lubbock for another year.
Okay. I feel like we're lucky to have Randy here. If you check out some of his artwork down there at Caviel's, you'll see why I say that. And I was going to get into earlier some of the stuff I like about your art. And one of the first things you notice is I think the style is called chiaroscuro.
Yeah.
And it's like a technique where you paint off of a black canvas. So you black out the canvas like it's night or like it's a dark room, and then you bring the picture out of that with colors and emulating the way light falls. And the reason I like that is because I mentioned this to you when we were talking. When I was in video school, that's literally, we used to look at Rembrandts and stuff like that and emulate that lighting.
Yeah,
that's how you're taught to light.
Right.
So
right. So it makes things, especially in a painting or in photography, it gives a dimension to the image, and it's kind of it comes out of the darkness, and it doesn't necessarily have to be painted on a black canvas, but sometimes that kind of speeds up the process. But it's basically having a dark background and then a very high contrast. Right. Put it that way.
Yep.
And so when you would look up close at, say, a Rembrandt or something like that, or somebody that was very versed in chiaroscuro, you would see Jan Vermeer was a big chiaroscuro.
Yep.
And but if you looked at the images real close, they had the highlights were like a large glob of light color, that kind of thing. So, but if you stood off from it, it had a very realistic look.
Right.
But if you got up close, all the places on the colors would be kind of globs of color.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting thing. And one of the things that the artist would kind of specialize in was you might see like a bird sitting on with a string tied to its foot and tied to the it's in the photograph. I mean, it's in the painting. I mean. And so it looks like you could reach up and grab it. That's the idea. And so it's kind of tricking the eye.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I love chiaroscuro, but and all that style.
And the funny thing is, you'll see a lot of Randy's work down there is, of course, the nudes, and then interspersed with it, you got like I think a donkey and some roosters, and there's one of the nudes that I like quite a bit. It's a young lady kind of reclining on a large waterbed or something. It's got pillows all around her, and it's just popping out of the way it looks. It just, I think I described it on the podcast too. It feels like something I've seen in real life, but I can't remember where I saw it, and it just feels like it's tugging at some recognition in my mind somewhere. It's like I've seen that. But I haven't. It's just the way you painted it. It's just reminiscent of something.
That's kind of what I'm going for. So, but yeah, and a lot of people can see. You can see a lot of my work before you can come to the show. You can see it online if you Google me, because I have a really large footprint on Google. So, which is very nice, and been blessed with that.
Right.
But a lot of my history and background's all on there. Easy to find.
Yeah.
But Groden, because people don't spell it usually correctly or automatically, like Gordon, but you can find me pretty easily on Google.
Yeah. You're one of there's you and another gentleman who is not native to Lubbock, but he's been here since the 70s. Mr. Watkins, James Watkins. He's a sculptor. And matter of fact, I think that's his book. Right there.
Right.
And when I look at you guys' work, I go, oh, these dudes are like, yeah, these ain't no little local artists that are, getting a start or something. Like, oh man, these cats are like, all right, these are world-class dudes right here. And oddly enough, with your nudes down there, I like a couple of those. I'm gonna need about 10 grand apparently. 15 grand to get what I want to get.
I've got a wide range of prices, but yeah, well, down there I have the letter, but I think it can be found online. But I was contacted by Playboy when I was in Hawaii, and in the letter it says the producers of Playboy have determined that sitting for a portrait by Randy Groden was one of the sexiest things to do on the entire planet.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty nice. And so at first I thought somebody was punking me.
Oh, right.
but and then when they called, still a little bit I wasn't sure, but then realized it was all real. And they had decided that, because they were doing a TV show, and it was the 100 most sexy things to do in the world or whatever. Anyway, so they sent a crew over to film me at a waterfall and photographing the models and stuff, and the models, they brought the models too, and so in the film crew, so we filmed all day long, and then they filmed me doing the portrait and all that kind of stuff. So it got a lot of attention. In fact, you can still find it sometimes online, but this was about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did that feel like a full circle type of deal since you got your start kind of looking or painting off of Playboy models and then for Playboy to reach out
well,
to you
actually,
like
yes, in a funny sort of way, but yeah, and since then I had painted a number of different playmates and so on, but in history, that's always been kind of the case that to paint figures, if that's what you're going to do, it's hard to find, especially back in time, that if you were, sorry,
That's all right.
I'll have to turn that off.
That little side button. Every time I get a call, it's nobody I know. I never get a call from people I know and want to talk to. It's
Right.
always telemarketers.
Right. So anyway, what were we talking about?
I think we were talking about the back in time, how they used to get models.
Oh yeah. So in history, say for instance, Gauguin and Van Gogh, they painted together a lot, and a lot of times they would use the same models, but they usually were performers or people that worked at brothels and that sort of thing back then, because your normal housewife or woman down the street wouldn't be modeling for people, especially without clothes on.
Right.
It wasn't proper. But anymore, that's a little different. But so finding a model has always been, a thing. But I've never really had a problem with doing that, with finding models. But a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of artist friends, male and female, have a little issue and hard time, because, if you don't handle it right, it can be, uncomfortable for everyone. So
I was going to say, I can't even imagine how you would. Have you ever seen a person that you think will make a good model and just ask them?
Oh yeah.
And how do you approach that? I mean,
well, I just tell them what I do, and again that I have a pretty big footprint on
so
Google.
that's the easiest
they can look
part
me up.
right there. They can go,
helps.
He's
real. Yeah, exactly. Because if I didn't have that, it might be a little bit more difficult.
Right.
So, just convincing them and so on. But they can see my work online, so it's it's pretty easy.
Yeah. I tell you what. Thinking about what you do, it's inspirational to me. I got this studio here, and I wish I could knock that wall out and have that other room too, and make it, because I would like to have a photography studio as well.
Oh yeah.
I think I mentioned to you that's one of my things that I'm gonna start doing. I just have to figure out exactly how to get there. Where it's like, okay, I do private portraits.
Yeah.
But we do them. What do you like? What are your favorite colors? How would you like to do this? Bring an outfit or two that you want to look. It's something that I want to make it a special signature event, not we're going to go take pictures.
Right. It helps if you kind of can work in their likes and desires as far as their what they feel comfortable in, and that sort of thing, or the situations or so on, but and everything that I've painted has been more classical, that sort of thing, and I've done portraits. My first oil portrait was when I was 12, so I've been painting all that time, portraits and things. And then when I was 16, I started doing portraits at Six Flags over Texas, and Six Flags in Atlanta, and Six Flags in St. Louis, Opryland in Nashville, and Kings Island up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and very quickly moved into teaching. And in each park, I taught about 40 something artists every year from the time I was a senior in high school, and so I would travel from park to park and teach artists to do the various arts and crafts that we had. Our company supplied. We were the leasee for the park. And so we did glass blowing, metal sculpture, wood carving, candle making, portraits, caricatures, silhouettes. And so I would teach people to do it in a few weeks. They'd get better over the summer. I mean, they weren't, a senior,
Right.
so they would learn, and if they stayed for a few years, they'd get even better, and they would go off and do things. I mean, I had different people that had worked for me over the years. Ren and Stimpy, if anybody remembers Ren and Stimpy. Well, I taught one of the artists that created Ren and Stimpy. He was a caricature artist.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was a hilarious show. I got a particular friend that introduced that to me, and that's a trip.
Yeah. Well, his name was Bob Camp, and there's a couple of artists that worked with him.
That name sounds really
Bob
familiar.
Camp, he was one of the main creators of Ren and Stimpy, and he was a great artist. He worked for Frank Frazetta, an illustrator.
Really?
Yeah, and he did a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
But he was an incredible caricature artist.
Right.
So funny. His sense of humor was hilarious.
Right.
A great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Frank Frazetta, huh? That's the gentleman that paints the sword and sorcery type paintings, right?
Yes. The muscle guys with the big swords.
Y'all have seen them. Anytime you see like a big barbarian dude fighting some creature with a lithe, beautiful woman at his feet, that's Frank Frazetta or a copycat one. But,
he and Boris both, and some of these artists also worked for Boris, but they did a very similar style.
Yeah.
And but they did more illustrative stuff, like for books and things, soft cover magazines or books and stuff like that. But they did a lot of illustrations.
Right.
So
you say you lived in Taos, New Mexico?
I lived in Santa Fe.
Santa Fe?
Yeah.
That's a pretty artsy, fartsy type place.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is that why you went there? Is it...
No, actually, no, I did because I was married at the time, and we had bought a big RV, 42-foot RV with a car on the back of it.
Oh wow!
And we traveled and we went to national parks all over the country, and actually it was the three of us because my wife at the time, her brother who had Down syndrome traveled with us and lived with us, and so we traveled. We went out to California. We went up to every national park you can think of,
right? And
we would stay in each park for maybe a week and change the backgrounds and stuff. It was just beautiful. What a trip! I mean, but so at the end of the trip, we ended up going to Santa Fe, and that's how I got to Santa Fe. And considering it was kind of time for us to bring the trip to a close, it had been a little over a year. We decided that that we were going to, put up stakes there for a short time or a while, and so I ended up staying there. But as things would have it, they were still going through the economy crash that we had back. And one of the reasons that I'd moved from Hawaii in the first place, but I started caregiving there and hospice work and doing it. I had started up in Bend, Oregon at first, and then moved to Santa Fe doing it. But, it was more private pay, and I traveled a lot with them, and so. But that's how I got into the caregiving. So I was mostly doing that there.
Oh, I see.
But
is there any that hospice care work did that in any way creep into your art?
Well, yes, of course, because just my caring for people and trying to get that into my paintings and so on, and learning about people and so on. I've always I was the oldest of four kids, and so my caregiving kind of began there. My father had told me that when they were getting divorced, I was about 10 years old, and said, okay, your mom and I are getting divorced, and you're going to be the man of the house and need to take care of your mom and your brother and sisters. And so they kind of put a lot of pressure on. He didn't mean that,
Right,
to,
right,
but he
right.
did. But anyway, so that kind of put me in that situation. But it also helped me in the teaching. It helped me in all kinds of things. So, because I felt like I was a leader, so to speak, and and helping people learn things and stuff. So, but that's where I got into that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself as a child growing up in Dallas, before or outside of painting. What y'all used to do, and what was it like?
In Dallas?
Yeah.
Well,
Is that where you grew up?
Yes, but I still moved around quite a bit. In my formative years, you might say, I lived in Dallas, Irving, and that Irving is where I took my first oil painting class, and then, and I'd mentioned earlier that I was contacted out of the blue from this kid that was a brother, and his brother had passed away, but his brother is my friend, and that's where I'd taken the art classes in Irving. But growing up, also I lived on a ranch in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I did that for a number of years and milked cows every morning and every evening. My dad had a ranch out there, had 200 acres and had 12 ponds and had 200 head of cattle, 12 horses. And so there was a lot of stuff to take care of.
I bet.
A lot of stuff. So I was constantly doing that. But the milking the cow every morning and every evening and feeding the chickens, which that inspired me to do the chickens that I'm doing now that you'll see in the show at the Caviel. And also I've got a pop-up gallery over in the Clovis Road, the national flea market over there.
Yeah.
So I'm over there on the yellow row.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm gonna have to
They
stop
painted
by
the
there.
concrete different colors in the rows, but anyway. So if you can make it over there, everybody should come by over there. But anyway, so back to growing up there, I had a number of friends that we kind of got into the draw binky or draw the on the cards, the matchbook covers.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember seeing those at all. Well, so for a long time, it was the what was it, the famous artist school or something like that, and
I've seen that on TV.
yeah, and so
you send it in.
Yeah, you send it into the thing, and then they invite you to take a class or learn something online or whatever, and so we would always enter those kind of things and draw the little deer or the little or the person profile or something, but and then we did that, and but it was always, well, I was going to say always, but there was a short time that I thought I might be a magician. So I did some parties for kids and things like that as a young teenager. But
That's funny. I went through a similar phase.
a magician stage.
Got some books from the library.
There you go.
Elementary school, and learned a few tricks. And
We'll slide a hand.
I tried to put on a show in the garage, and ended up being mostly just making popcorn and giving for those little drink pouches to everybody, and it devolved into a play session. But
Right.
anyway, I don't know what it is with kids and magic shows.
Yeah. But so I mean, I've just always been focused on going into the art. So
I admire the fact that you knew that from at least 12, probably younger, apparently.
Yeah. I always knew that was what I planned on doing.
How did you know that? Most people never get that inkling.
I know.
Much less that early. I don't think a lot of people ever get it.
Right. Well, yes, I did, and I felt so lucky about it that when I was in Dallas as a young adult, I got involved with a TV show. It was called Kids Zone, and it was produced in Dallas. And during that time, I also did a couple of other TV shows. There was some shows that they were had multiple things on the show, but they would travel around checking out different businesses and things like that. And I was a permanent segment on there for a short time, but then I did the kids show.
Okay.
And so it was Learn to Draw with Uncle Randy. And so they would show cartoons. They'd do different things on Kids Zone. And then there would be time for my segment and 10, 15 minutes segment. And it was Learn to Draw with Uncle Randy. And I would teach kids how to draw something simple that they could go. My theory was that if they could learn something that they could reproduce quickly, then they weren't taking a chance on going home and or doing a drawing and showing it to their parents or their brother or sister or whoever, and them saying, "What is that?" Right. You see what I mean? Then they take it and put it under their couch. Yeah. But if they can draw something simple enough that the people go, "Oh, that's Beetle Bailey," or that's whatever it is, that they go, "Yeah, I'll learn how to do something else." Right. So they would spark their interest in learning new stuff. So anyway, that was kind of my thinking in my class on the TV show. And over time, and that was, so many years ago. But anyway, over the years, every so often I'd be contacted by somebody that would either run into me that found out I was an artist or whatever, and they would approach me and say, "I watched you, every Saturday or whatever," and and so that was it was really neat that they were encouraged by that. But being an artist, it's always been kind of something similar where I every few months I might get an email or something because people would find me online, and they would send me a photograph of a painting that they had, and they would say their parents had passed away or somebody had passed away and handed them down this painting, and my name was down in the corner, and because of that they wanted to find out a little bit more about me, so they Googled me, and then they wanted to send me and tell me that they loved having the painting and thank you and all that stuff, and that they just wanted to let me know. And in fact, one time I was in New Orleans, and I used to show in a couple of different galleries down there, and I happened to be down there for a special event, and I was with some ladies that were decorating a convention center. And so they invited me to go with them to help them. And anyway, during the convention, we had a couple of days off to be able to go look around and stuff. And since I was familiar with the area, I was the guide for the ladies. And so we were walking around and having lunch and so on. And we went to one of these little antique stores. So we go in, and we're all just looking around at all the stuff, and all of a sudden I see this painting over in the corner, and it's a pretty large painting, and it was of a black jazz musician playing the guitar, and anyway, so I walked over to it because I was so curious, and I liked it so much, and when I saw the signature, then it was mine. It had R. Groden on it, so anyway, it was a painting that, again, had been in somebody's home, and then they passed away, and then got handed down. There's been so much time, and then one time I got an email, and a lady had sent me a photograph of her. She was sitting on the back of a airplane, and had her leg kicked up, and she was holding a martini, and she was a flight attendant. When I was 12 years old, so she married a pilot, and so they had this photograph, or this I did it on a napkin on the plane, but I was 12 years old, and I was kind of hitting on the stewardess at the time, we called them, and anyway, so she had saved it and framed it and had it hanging in her house, and wanted to reach out and see if she could find me on the internet because she could read my name. Yeah, and which is a good point that I tell young artists that I'm teaching, that always be sure it's not not trying to write like a doctor or something. This is not a fancy signature. You're not trying, you don't want people to know what it says. You want them to know what it says.
Right.
And the classic example was Norman Rockwell. You could read his name easy because it looked like it was printed on a stencil.
Yep.
But anyway, but I'd drawn her caricature. I was at 12 years old. I was flirting with the flight attendant, but another situation that happened that was very similar to that was I had gone to Hawaii long before I'd moved there, and I'd gone there with I was single at the time, and my father was too, and he had a fam trip for his company, and he was of the top salesman. It was Frederick Air Conditioning, and so on the trip over, he talked to his boss, and for the plane that he was in charge of, he hired me to go do caricatures, and it kind of kept the people busy, on the trip.
Right.
And so anyway, while we were over there, one of the things we stayed at the Sheraton hotel and on the beach there and in Oahu, and so we spent a lot of time at the pool and at the pool bar, and we both were adults at the time, and anyway, and single, and so but on a napkin I drew the bartender, and he liked it and everything, and so I'll skip ahead another 25, 30 years. Then I happened to be in Hawaii, and my son went with me over there before I moved over there, because I was going to move to Hawaii, my wife and I at the time, and so to scout it out and decide which island we were going to move to, and so on. She couldn't leave because of her work, but so my son went with me, and he was maybe in his 20s, mid-20s, and anyway, so we went to Oahu, spent time in Oahu, and we couldn't get into the Sheraton because there was a convention there, so we stayed across the street basically. But we went over there to spend time at the pool and so on. So he and I were sitting there and just kind of enjoying, the fact that years earlier my dad and myself were there, and this time now it was his dad and me, or me and my son. Right. Anyway, so we were talking, and I drew a picture of the bartender, and so gave it to him. Well, he looked at it, and he had a stunned look on his face. And he goes, "You won't believe this, but 30 years ago, something like that, a person drew my caricature here at the bar." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I got it framed. And so I see it every day. I go home and I have it hanging in my kitchen, and I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And you know what the name said on the bottom of it? Randy Groden. And so when I was there with my dad, he was the bartender. Wow. That I drew then. Now, 30 years later, I'm with my son, and I drew him again. Wow. I mean, what are the odds of that happening? But when you think about it, though, in reality, who is going to quit? You have to die to leave that job, because people are happy, in a good mood. You're at the pool. You got all these pretty people out there. You have Diamond Head right there. So I mean, what a place to leave. So you're not going to leave there. Right. So the fact that I ran into him, that was not so strange. But altogether, it was pretty interesting. So
I'm gonna ask you this then, because this is a question I was thinking about while you were talking. Okay. And now that you've kind of woven that story into the mix, I got to ask you this for real. So how do you look at your art? Do you look at it as a gift, as a spiritual gift? Do you look at it as just something you do? And if it's a spiritual gift, I was gonna say, if it's just something you do and that you're good at, how do you explain all those coincidences like that?
No,
because there's no such thing. I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah, no, I get you. No, I could tell you many stories very similar to that. I mean, that were odd coincidences and stuff and in my life that were very coincidental, very coincidental. Well, I'll tell you a quick short one that's not too long, but so I during one of my single times, because and I mention that only because I've been married 6 times, so and so during the in between times when I was single, I would do various things. Anyway, so I did a lot of parties and conventions doing caricatures, and so I worked for 5 or 6 different radio stations in Dallas area, and they were always talking about me on the radio stations there, and that we'll be there giving away beer huggies, and so the DJ will be there, and Randy Groden will be there drawing your caricature, and because what I would do is for the radio station I would draw the caricatures for free, but I would do them on a piece of paper with a border around it with the name of the radio station down in the corner, and also on the other corner my name. So if my name's got really sloppy in the picture, then they could read printed because clearly. So anyway, so I was working for a radio station, and so I ended up dating one of the DJs, and so they asked me to go to they had a speaking of Playboy too, another thing with Playboy, they had a Playboy club in Dallas, and so they were having the Playboy KNUS 10.5 contest, because that was when Bo Derek and 10.5 contest. So so my date and I, the DJ, we kind of, we weren't. It was a beauty contest. It was a typical beauty contest, but there was one very pretty. One of the runners-up. She had dreadlocks, kind of like Bo Derek thing, and so she ended up just being the runner-up. But anyway, we talked about it a lot. And so after that, when I do my caricatures at parties and things, I did a lot of situations, somebody playing the drums, playing the golf, doing different things. And so I had one that was of a pretty girl holding a loving cup thing, like a trophy, 10.5 contest winner, and so it was a situation thing that I worked into my situations on my caricatures. Okay. All right. So I was at a mall and for some big promotion, and I was doing caricatures in front of this store. It was a gift shop kind of place. And so these 3 ladies came into the gift shop, and they'd said hi when they were going in, but they walked into the store. They walked to the back of the store, and they were looking at some candles or something back there. Well, I had followed them in there and just follow them back, and because one of them was attractive to me, and so at my first opportunity, I said, "Is there anything I can help you with?" I was doing caricatures in the front of the store. I wasn't working at the store. And so it was a mother and her 2 daughters. Okay. One daughter was my age, and the other daughter was younger, of course. And so she said, "Well, actually, how much is this particular thing?" And I said, just a minute, I'll be right back. So I went up to the front of the store and got the lady that was working at the store, and brought her back. And so they kind of laughed because I was just, and I told them, I said, when you're done in the store, come up there. I'll do your caricatures for, gratis. And so they did, and I did their caricatures, and the last one was the daughter that was my age, and so I'm drawing her caricature, and that was the caricature. The situation came to my mind to do her as a beauty contest winner. And so I drew her as a beauty contest winner at a 10.5 contest. Right. the situation that I had come up with at the party.
Mm-hmm.
And then also she thought that was really funny and liked it a lot. And so I asked her mother if I could ask her out. You know, I thought that'd be the proper thing to do. And
Right.
she said, well, yeah, of course. And so I did. And anyway, we ended up getting married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we were married. And for years, I never knew this part of the story, but there was that little segment. She was the one that was dressed up like Bo Derek at the contest.
Oh.
And she didn't tell me that for years. She just thought I knew, and that was the reason I'd done it.
Oh.
So I made her as the 10.5 winner. And this wasn't even across the street from the place. It was in a whole nother, it was out in Richardson, and the Playboy Club was downtown Dallas, basically.
Interesting.
But just a weird coincidence that.
Do you think you subconsciously knew?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's all I can imagine.
Right.
I mean, it was like you said. I mean, all of it has some kind of,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I've got many stories like that that are so strange.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
Huh. I tell you what do you so when it comes to talents like painting and drawing and stuff like that, I mean, how do you think we get them? Where do you think they come from? Is it something you can, clearly it's something that can be taught, but people like you.
Okay, well, that's a good question because, and also the reason that I teach, and the reason I teach the way that I do teach, and which is a little bit kind of out of the ordinary. You know, it's something that I feel like that people are born with talent, but the talent is to learn, or the desire to learn,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not, unless you're some kind of savant that you can play the guitar or the piano or guitar or anything by ear. You know, you have the desire to learn, which it's a lot of practice. No matter what you're doing, to do it well. I mean, I'm still learning all the stuff that I do. I learn something every day, and if I don't, then I'm not doing it right. So because I won't be perfect ever, that I know. And so anyway, I feel like that if you have the desire to work at it, and you can learn to do whatever. I mean, but you have to dedicate yourself to doing that. When I was first starting to do the caricatures, and then when I taught, I taught maybe 400 people a year to do all that stuff all together.
Yeah.
And over the years, that's a lot of people. And so I would take them and put them out in the park. They may have been only drawing or painting maybe a few weeks. They had the talent to keep trying and to keep getting better. But that's a pretty big step to get out in front of people and paint. So when I'm teaching them, how to see things, and how to really look at things, because as an example, people might sit down, a new artist sit down, and so you have your model to your left, or if you're right-handed, or to your right if you're left-handed. But anyway, so they'd look over at the person, and then they have two eyes, and then they'd look over here and they would draw two eyes, but that's two eyes out of their head. And then now there's a nose underneath that, and then there's a mouth underneath that, and they're just going from things in their file in their head. And then they wonder why it doesn't look like the person. But you have to look at each individual thing and compare it to the thing next to it, and and where it is, and so on, relationship. And if you do that, like if you there's a lot of tricks that I've learned, but one of them that I don't I quit doing at grade schools, because a good example, if you were trying to reproduce somebody's signature, I hesitate saying this, but it's such a true thing. I could copy a signature pretty easily. But how I do it was I turn it upside down. And I copy it upside down because it's easier to copy a shape than it is to copy a letter, because you have ways you make it your own, the letters. Every letter that you make, you've done it a million times.
Yeah.
They don't teach penmanship anymore in school, but when we had to practice and practice and practice, and so it forces you to really look at something. So, as an example, if somebody's drawing from a photograph, I have them turn the photograph upside down while they're drawing, and so I'm constantly rotating what I'm painting from and what I'm painting constantly. So I may paint on it upside down for a while or sideways for a while, and so on. And now you can't do that from a live subject, but you can look in a mirror. And so like if you take a mirror and you hold it and you look in the mirror and look at your subject, landscape, whatever it may be, and then look at your canvas, you'll see mistakes galore and things that you can correct.
Yeah.
But because your eyes get kind of lazy, kind of in a way, so after you look at it for a while, you get to where you don't notice certain things, and that's why people get things out of proportion and so on, like that. And if they try drawing it upside down, they have to look at it. They have to reproduce it. Right. They're being forced to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a very interesting technique.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to train myself to say make pictures. When I make pictures, mainly because when I read about the older photographers, previous generation, they don't say take pictures. They say make pictures. I don't know why we say take today. It's like we look at things as commodities, little Instamatic. Just we're snapping a picture, take a pic, and I'm like, if you're just taking a picture on your phone, I guess you are taking a picture. But if you're serious about it, you're making a picture.
Yeah.
Because I can sit there. What I like to do as a photographer or even a videographer, either one. I find right now I'm more enchanted with photography, and I can go out in a field somewhere and find something like, oh, what is that?
Right.
I'm gonna take a picture of that. That's not right. Let me try it like this. That's not right. Look, 45 minutes later and 50 pictures later, I'm like, well, that's not the right picture of that thing. I don't understand what that means, but it's what you're saying. You're seeing the essence of something. And when you try to make a picture of it, you're trying to capture that essence.
Right.
But when you look at the picture that you just made, you're like, nah, that's not it. That's not what I'm seeing. I've talked to people at work and other photographers and videographers, creatives, and we agree. Like, I know they don't, because I've given work to clients before that I was like, oh, they're gonna see that thing right there, and they go, oh, I love it. Oh my God. Like, so you don't see after a while, you just learn to leave it alone. They're not looking at it like you are.
Right. Well, an experiment on that, and it helps in photography. It helps in painting too. But the little you can make one with a frame or whatever. But like if you have a slide, you don't see slides anymore. But if you pop out the little film out of it, then you have a little square, little frame type thing that you can look through. Now you can make one, and you've seen artists, you've seen to do that with your fingers, and you're making a frame. So you're blocking out everything that's around it, and so you're creating, either a landscape or portrait, different shape, either vertical or horizontal, and you're blocking out everything else. So you're composing the image. Now, because that's one of the things that's hard for a new artist to say, oh, I want to paint that, because that is goes on and on forever, all different directions. So if you move your head in any direction, you're screwing up that whole image that you had. So it's hard to get that. So if you lock it in with the little frame, then you see what you're going to paint, and you can kind of work on getting that composition, and because that's a real important thing. And on that, a tool that is used that a lot of people don't know about, but Van Gogh had that he used a lot was he sent a letter to his brother Theo and about painting, and he said, I found this tool, and what it was a like a wooden frame.
Mm-hmm.
He put nails around it and then stretched a string cross hatch across it, and so it was almost like a tennis racket kind of thing, but so you had these squares. So then he reproduced those squares on his canvas. Mm-hmm. So what he could do is hold this little frame up and look through one eye and see the image of a tree or whatever it was, landscape, whatever he was drawing, or a person, and so he would look through one eye, because if you look through two eyes, then you're getting two different angles and it screw up everything.
Yep.
Okay, so all right, up in this left-hand corner, the square, there's 4 branches. So if I go over here to this square, that's a different size, then you can do that shape in those squares. Then all of a sudden you have the image, and you've got it broken down in the right proportions. Mm-hmm. And so similarly, if you do that with photographs and things like that, when you're taking a photograph, it helps you a lot in your compositions. Yeah. Because composition's one of the most important things for whatever you're doing.
It is. I teach a little class in photography up at the Y, and that's one of the things I'm constantly working with my young cats with. Like, all right, you gotta. That's a good pick. I don't ever tell them it's a bad pick. I don't know if there's what is a bad pick. If you like it,
if you like it, you like it.
Probably
exactly
a good pick. But I say, well, let's. I'm constantly telling them, fill up the frame. That's an interesting subject, but let us see the subject. Fill up the frame a little bit and try your composition. I told them composition to me is one of my favorite things to mess with on anything I'm doing.
Yeah,
and they're getting it. It's funny to see these young cats that are they're actually kind of listening and getting it. And
but that's the thing too with the frame, because then you teach them how to compose it and put those things in the frame. So you may have to move it down a little bit, and then you'll have a different perspective and different composition.
Yep.
So that's, or back off a little bit. But anyway, I love teaching, and well, for some reason it came to my mind too that a lot of people don't understand that when you have a model, you want to be able to look up at if the painting you're going to do is going to be on the wall, then you put them on a platform so that when you look at them, you're looking more kind of up their nose, kind of, you're down below them a little bit, looking up at them. Typically when people give you a pet, a photograph of their dog or cat or whatever, they have taken a picture of them. The dog's gone, long gone years ago. But when they were feeding him one day, they were at their bowl, and so the dog's looking up at them, and they take a picture of it straight down.
Yeah.
All right. So now this dog is looking up at them, and they paint the dog, and it's up on the wall. So now you're looking up at the dog, but the dog is on the wall. It's wrong perspective.
Right.
And so that's it looks wrong.
Yeah. Now
I've painted them like that, and it's interesting to people that look at it. So it's not totally a bad thing necessarily. Yeah. But you got to know that you're doing it and recognize that you're doing it. An example of that happening in history was if you next time you get a chance to look at the Mona Lisa, pull it up on your phone or whatever, and you'll see it's a woman, and she's sitting in a chair, and she's looking at you, and behind her is kind of a landscape.
Yep.
All right. So now something about it just jars you. If you take your hand, or depending on if you're using your phone or whatever, put your fingers over her face, and then in the background will just look normal. Everything will be fine. Or next, then you cover up the background
Right.
and leave her face showing, she'll look fine. And it doesn't. But if you take your hand off and look at both of them together, it looks wrong, or not wrong necessarily, but it looks right, but something about it looks weird. And that's what the whole mystery of Mona Lisa is, because people always talk, is it something on her mind or the way she's smiling or whatever? No, it's none of those things, because what happened is that she was up on a platform. When he painted her, he was looking up at her. The background was painted off of a balcony, which was looking down off the balcony into the. So the perspective is two different perspectives.
Right.
One's looking up, one's looking down. And so that your eyes are kind of ajar, because the picture looks great because it was done by who it was done by, you know? And so, and he was an excellent artist, so he wouldn't be doing something, you know, screwy.
Right.
So he kind of knew, but, you know, he was like, I don't care, you know, and so he did it.
Yeah.
But it made it one of the most famous paintings, you know, in the world, the Mona Lisa.
Right.
So, but if next time you have a chance to look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about, because the landscape, you're looking down off of a balcony, kind of, you know, at the castle or wherever, and then she was up on a platform and he was looking up at her.
Oh, that's very interesting. That is very interesting. I have two more questions for you.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna try that Mona Lisa thing. I'm trying to picture it in my mind now, but I think you are teaching classes here in Lubbock, are you not?
Yes.
Tell us about those classes and how somebody can get in one.
Well, probably be best to come down to either the show at the Caviel. I'll be there this next art trail, and or also come over to the pop-up kind of gallery over at the National Market, flea market. But I'll be teaching, and I teach watercolors and I teach acrylics, and I teach acrylics to where they look like oils.
Okay.
I love oils, but in apartments and places like that, it's kind of tough because of the turpentine and the fumes.
Right.
So I don't use them quite as much right now.
I see.
So I'll have to have a studio that, you know, has better, you know, ventilation and that kind of thing. But I love teaching but love to talk to anybody that's interested to come down and take some classes while I'm still in Lubbock.
Okay, so you just want them to give you a call then, or?
Yeah, they can give me a call. They can Google me. They can, you know, it's Randy Groden at me.com. They can email me.
Yeah.
Or you can Google me and find me pretty easily. But if you spell the name right, but yeah. So anyway, I'd love to meet them. I teach mostly private classes. I do some group classes, but they're mostly private classes.
Oh, I see. That sounds even better, actually.
Yeah.
What are they, about an hour each, or?
Actually, two.
Two.
Yeah. I was doing 3-hour classes, but sometimes it's just too hard for people to schedule.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. I mean, some people, I was painting in Dallas, teaching classes at the craft guild there, and the classes were 3 hours each. And but a lot of the students only painted that 3 hours a week.
Oh,
you know, so it makes it. I mean, it's good for them, and it's but it's more of a social event type of thing,
right?
You know? So,
right.
But yeah, no, I love teaching. So, yeah.
Well, cool. When we do this, we publish this next Wednesday. I'll be sure to put down in the show notes. Y'all know how we do. I'll put some links and some phone numbers. Is that cool? Okay to put the phone number
absolutely,
down there?
Sure.
Put the phone number down there and all that, so you can get in touch with Mr. Groden and see if you can.
But notice that it's 8:08.
Yeah.
It's not 8:06.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's a key thing, because the first time I ever called you, I called 8:06. It looks, because you're so used to seeing it in this area.
Yeah.
I thought it said 8:06, and it's 8:08 Hawaii,
Yeah.
I guess. It's 8:08.
Yeah.
every time I think of that as a hip hop head, I think of 808 kick drum makes the girlies get dumb, rolling right near, because the jealous one to get some. Master mix a lot.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
But
one of the originals.
Yeah. So here's a. I'm gonna try to do something of a lightning round here, but I'm trying to get off my electronics. I got the questions on there, but I'm gonna see, can I come up with some that are more appropriate to ask an artist. So,
Probably put it on paper and not on your phone.
well, you'd be probably right about that. I probably should put them on paper, Mr. Nugent quips. It's a great observation. Next time I do that. So my first question, this is a real question too, like, by the way, and you don't have to answer it quickly because I said it's a speed round, but I really would like to know the answer to this. Okay. If you couldn't paint, what would you do?
That's a very good question, and probably it's hard to answer because there was a movie once where this what was it, Richard Dreyfuss maybe, whoever it was, they were an artist, mm-hmm. and they painted mostly women and the figures, and the thing is, he became paralyzed from the neck down. Mm-hmm. And so he couldn't paint anymore.
Wow.
And so that kind of took a lot from him, you know. And so, I don't know if I lost one hand, my right hand, which I paint with, I would use my left hand. Right. I would come up with a way to do that and keep practicing it with it until I could do it.
Right.
I've seen actual people that painted with their foot, or whatever. Yeah. There's ways for it to come out. And also, if you're an artist, you're an artist. Yeah. And an artist, that can mean you don't use paintbrushes, but you use, if you're a seamstress, or if you sew dresses and doll clothes, or whatever you do, it can be artistic.
Yep.
And so I would figure out a way to use my artistic talents.
I said this was going to be the speed round, but I wanted to, you spurred a thought in there too. I 100% agree with that. Because actually, I guess light photography is my medium, but actually I consider myself a poet.
Yeah.
And I write poetry too.
Okay.
But I consider pictures poetry.
Yeah.
It's the same thing to me.
It's the exact poetry's an art.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. And I also noticed, speaking of which, I used to love to cook. My grandma
cooking is an art. Yeah.
I used to love to cook. My grandma she didn't teach me how to cook. I watched her cook a lot, and so I learned by watching her. So when I started cooking on my own, I was like, I love it. And I realized the reason I like cooking is because the same thing as writing a poem. Yeah. Because I don't use recipes. I say, what do we want today? We want some beef. What you do with it? What we got in here? Okay, I'm gonna do that. A little this, little that. So it's a freestyle assemblage of materials into something artistic when I'm cooking.
Right.
And I also discovered, this is what I'm getting at, when I started finally taking pictures and making pictures and making videos, I don't like cooking anymore.
Right.
Because I'm constantly involved with this, and I discovered it's just like I got nothing left for the cooking,
Right.
It's like,
Well, cooking and art is so similar, but you can still cook with recipes. It doesn't mean you're not being artistic.
Right.
It just, but you can step out of the recipe a little bit. Right. You don't have to do it exactly and cooking is easier than being, well, a chef can do it too, but like if you're a baker, it's a little tougher because it's more, that's more scientific.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a rigidity in that. You got to have something.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, same with a number of different things that are like that. So
I could go on. We could go on all day about that. But so let me try to get back to some of these speed round, these lightning round questions. Favorite artists?
Well, that's a good one too. But I've got so many of them though. But I can.
I think somebody's talking. Is that your phone?
Could be.
I hear a voice.
It's probably outside or
no, I think it's right
there or outside there.
Yeah, I think it's right here.
Yeah. So anyway, Rembrandt, see, there's like I mentioned earlier. Well, gosh, there's so many different. I mean, I can't even think of all the ones. But what it was when I was a young child, my parents and my grandparents and my uncles and aunts, they all had things that they bought at Sears.
Oh.
They were all prints.
Yeah.
And but they were of famous artists.
Right.
So there was all the various artists that you can think of. That they had on their walls, but they were a print of them. They got at Sears.
Right.
And so that's who I grew up with, all those different artists.
Yeah.
But, yeah, anyway.
What's something that you have not yet done in life that you would like to do that you think would mightily influence your art?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, living in Hawaii, that was a big thing that I knew that I always wanted to do, and I ended up doing it because when I'd gone there the first time, like I said, with my dad, when I was doing that company trip thing, I knew that I wanted to live there. I mean, I wanted to just stay. I wasn't going to go back, get back on the plane. Right. And why should I? Because I was single. I could have just stayed there. But I did go back. But I did come back and live there for 15 years. So, later on. But, I was thinking about it at one point before I even came here. I was looking at Mauritius. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And if you haven't, you should look it up. But it's on the other side of Africa. And it's a little island. And funny thing was that when I first found it, I was watching the Olympics, and in this country, everybody's coming out and their little flags and stuff like that. And this was just a few people, they're coming out. And what is this place? And then it said Mauritius. I thought, I need to check that out just for the heck of it. And so I Googled it, and it was an island. And one of their official language was English, because England had owned it for a while. And it was funny because when I Googled it, I was looking at different maps and things, and this one looked like it was off the side of Africa, but it was actually off of Madagascar. Right. So Madagascar was off the edge of Africa. All right. So then there was, for a month, I don't know how long, but I thought this was a neat little island. But I thought I was looking at Madagascar, which was a huge island. Right. So this little island was off that. And so the name was over here, Mauritius, but that went across Madagascar to the little bitty island over there. Anyway, so, but for years, I was a member of the expats, which is Americans, I think, that are looking at, they have a club kind of thing, and so they stay in contact, and how do you like this or that? And one of the only complaints that I could find, downsides, were the animals, and by that I mean dogs and stuff like that people had brought on trips. So they were actually well-bred dogs. They were good dogs. They weren't mean. They weren't like biting people, but they would join and become in packs because they get loose and run off. Their owner had to fly back to wherever they lived, and so they just left them, and they lost them, and so they joined a pack, and then they were hanging around. So they'd get into garbage cans and stuff. They were like raccoons and stuff. So, but it was so funny because I thought, well, that's not that big a deal. I could handle that part of it. So that's on my bucket list of a place that I would like to go to.
Didn't you say that in our previous conversation that you were going to maybe go there after here? Or you just hope to someday?
Well, yes. Well, someday maybe. And I don't know. I may, at some point after here, I may go back to Santa Fe for a while. Or swim over to Hawaii for a while.
Right. All right. Last question.
Okay.
Have you ever me see how would I say it. Is it possible to sell out? And have you ever done something that you personally felt like you regretted, or that was close to selling out or selling out? What is selling out?
Well, that's a good question too.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I don't know what that would mean as for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, and it would depend on the category and what it was in reference to, but as far as selling out in art, because I mean there are a lot of people that wouldn't do caricatures,
Right.
But mostly that would be because they couldn't.
Right.
And so I feel like if you can express yourself with art, then whatever that means, whatever direction you want to go, whether that's photography or that's baking or whatever it is, that's an art.
Yep.
And so as long as you're doing that and it makes you feel good, I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's selling out.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, and I'd have to really think hard on that one. And I will, and then I'll get back to you next time we can get together.
Okay. That is a tough question. Like I said, I'm literally sitting here thinking about it right now, and I'm like,
well, I mean, a lot of people have strong thoughts on that, and they feel like, well, they're a sellout if they do portraits, or they're sellout if they do this or they do that, and it's like, that's I don't believe that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, there's certain things I probably wouldn't do regarding photo and video, but it's not because it's selling out. It's just because it's not my thing.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're doing something that's true to you, then how's it selling out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're doing it to make a living, and it's something that is true to something that you enjoy doing, and you feel okay about it, then I don't see that as a bad thing.
Right. I used to do. I started out doing weddings.
Okay. Yeah. So again,
I wouldn't do them anymore.
Right.
But
that's partly because you're a little more mature and you don't want to go through that.
It's too much. It's too much nonsense.
Yeah. I did. I had a friend that did not traditional, but did formal portraits. And so, it's the person standing by the bookshelf, or they're doing that kind of thing. And I've done that, and too, but not as much as they had done it. But it was kind of a hard thing to get out of. But there's a lot of people that wouldn't do that and don't want to go through that misery, because sometimes it's tough doing portraits because of just people's attitude, and their criticism, because they want you to do something creative and of them, but they want to control it. Yeah. And it's like, well, that doesn't look like my nose. Well, it does look like your nose in my head. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, so that's a tough thing, because you're trying to please somebody else, So as much as I can when I'm painting, I like to do a painting, and then if somebody likes it, and hopefully as it goes along, I naturally do the paintings that they like. Right. But I try not to sell out, as you say, by doing, just too commercial of stuff. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because the niche that I'm kind of in right now, that I like working in quite a bit, is corporate video and photo. Yeah. And some people will look at that and be like, "Oh my God, you like taking pictures at conferences?" And like, yeah, I don't know why I do, and it pays good.
Yeah. So what's wrong with that?
So it's like,
yeah, and if you do it and you do it well, I think that's an art. Yeah. And so if you're working at it and you're doing the best job you can at it, then by golly, I think that that's what you should do. And I don't think that's selling out.
Indeed. Indeed.
So, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we could go on for probably another hour. I can think of a million questions.
Okay, well, we can do it again.
But yeah, I don't know how the Focus LBK crowd, I don't know, they might want us to cut it short, so we will. Randy, thanks for stopping by and talking to us on the Focus LBK show. Like I said, y'all out there, if you're interested, he does do classes. We're going to put the phone number and some links and stuff like that when we publish this. Feel free to hit him up, and I think you'll be in good hands too, judging by his work and his broad experience. Man, I think you know, if I could paint, or if I thought I could, I'd probably take one of those classes myself. In fact, I might like to come make portraits of you making portraits. That would be an amazing thing right there. I don't know, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
LBK, thank y'all for tuning in. This is again your brother Robert Jenkins. This is the Focus LBK show, and our guest has been Mr. Randy Groden. Y'all take care. All right, peace.